Patterns are everywhere. Patterns are all around us. When you can recognize those patterns, it's then when your intuition will tell you something. People struggle to make decisions because they don't know how to choose. We are brought up or go to a school, have parents where the decisions are made for us. And it's almost like we get to the age of 18, all of a sudden have to start making decisions. If decisions have been made for you your entire life, how do you know how to make the big ones? And why does it matter? And why does it matter that when you make decisions that you actually trust your intuition? Welcome to Life by 8, your blueprint for designing your ultimate life. I'm Rebecca Grugan, your architect on this journey to building a life fully lived. Using our 8 Pillars to Human Wellness framework, we'll explore how to transform your everyday from ordinary to extraordinary. So let's go. Do you know that you make between 33,000 and 35,000 decisions every single day? I know. 35,000. And do you know that we have between sort of 55 to 60,000 thoughts a day? And so if you do the maths on that, and I'm not super great at maths, but I'm good enough. That means that pretty much every second thought you have is a question or a decision you have to make. Can you now make sense of why Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg wear black shirts and jeans every day? Because it's about eliminating the decisions to make their life easier because of the amount of decisions they have to make. So, I just wanted to preface this episode with that because it's a huge amount of energy that we're using every single day. People struggle to make decisions because they don't know how to choose. We are brought up or go to a school or have parents where the decisions are made for us. And it's almost like we get to the age of 18 and you go to university or college or you move out of home and then you all of a sudden have to start making decisions. If decisions have been made for you your entire life, how do you know how to make the big ones? And why does it matter? And why does it matter that when you make decisions that you actually trust your intuition? And this is the thing, right? You may see it trending about masculine and feminine energetics and that you've got to be being more and do more and mindfulness and all of this sort of stuff. All of that is important. Your nervous system being regulated is important because it's only when you have a regulated nervous system, then you have your mind, body, and soul in alignment that you can actually hear your intuition without it being affected by any outsource, by anybody else. And so you're making decisions every single day. You made a decision whether to listen to this podcast or not. You're making a decision whether to continue or not. And if you're somebody who has had experience in making decisions that haven't worked out, then I would recommend that you continue to listen on so you can actually start to understand what you need to do to trust that gut instinct again, to trust that intuition. Because that's what this podcast is about. We're going into the fact that all of those decisions we have to make, and so many of us are making ones that don't work for us. There's a German psychologist called Gerd Gigerenzer, and he speaks into too much information makes individuals overthink. And when I studied NLP and became a coach, I heard about how bad AD was, which is auditory digital, which is cognitive, which means that we think too much. And the thing is that we are in a society where we may overanalyze things. And though my belief is from a Montessori perspective, I embody Montessori and I love it from first breath to last, my childcare, the early childhood centres, the goal will be aged care eventually. But that philosophy or way of life is actually about learning how to make decisions, learning how to trust your intuition, learning how to be a contributing member of society. That's Montessori. This is where we're at. The more that you can make decisions and the earlier that you learn how to do them, the more success you're going to have in creating the life that you want. See, Gerd grew up in Germany. It's a pretty hardcore past. And his work and his research goes into how people can make faster decisions. His work, his research on intuition and on decision-making has helped doctors, medical professionals, and other emergency personnel who have to make decisions that affect people's lives. His work has helped them come back into alignment with their intuition with incredible results. You see, intuition is a big part of his research and one that makes so much sense to me when I look at the access to knowledge we have. Because if we think about the state of our nervous systems and the quality of the relationships and lives that we are living, We have more access to knowledge than we've ever had in our lives. And why do you think we have the mental health crisis that we have? If you have a look at the two of those things in together, Gerd is pretty much on point. We have so much knowledge, we're overthinking, and our nervous systems can't cope. Then we have a system that many of us are growing up in, values level 4, the system, education, the health system, all of it, where we don't get the chance to make decisions. And so mix all of that together, plus this worthiness piece that so many people play out. Our worthiness and what people think of us affects our willingness to back ourselves, to back yourself when you have to make a decision that other people may disagree with. I'm not just talking about what are you going to eat for dinner, right? That is still a decision that can take people a long time to make because they're so far out of knowing what they actually want, like, feel like, that it's taking them half an hour to choose something off the menu. Have you ever been to dinner with anybody who's like that? Who sits there for hours looking at the menu going, I don't know what I want. Oh, what are you having? What are you having? This is what I'm talking about, intuition, decision-making. I've spoken into self-worth in previous episodes. I've spoken into how your values levels evolution affects how you experience and see yourself in the world around you. If you haven't listened to them, I recommend them. They are super powerful and help you make sense of this, make sense of getting back in touch with your senses, with your intuition. So I want to explain that understanding your intuition and being able to tap into it at any time and having the trust, the self-trust and the ability to apply it when making a decision, why it's so powerful. And I'm going to share some of my story with you because I feel like it's going to be helpful to maybe be able to see this from a perspective that might not be a story that is your own. But I remember the last time I went against my intuition. And if I use business, it's when I bought a childcare centre or early childhood centre and I had new investors come on board in the business and they wanted to grow really fast. I genuinely did not want to. And this opportunity, because I was known for somebody who would be offered shit centres, to be fair, and I could turn them into gold. I could get them for a really good price. I could flip them, turn them around and make them profitable. And there was the new investor had come on board and and a broker had called me and being a director with them, I provided the opportunity to them. And it was a yes, but my gut instinct was a no. But my ego wanted to prove these men wrong because I hadn't done the work on the masculine then at that point. And I remember saying yes, even though my gut instinct, my intuition was a no. And I want to tell you that I bought that centre. We bought that centre for a really good price. I sold half of it 6 months later for $350,000. But I never made money off it. I pretty much got to neutral, even though on paper it looked like it was costing money. If I didn't get rid of that centre, I literally settled the week before the COVID lockdowns happened, I would have lost everything. And I mean everything. I mean my house, probably my family, all of it. Because I went against my intuition. But that's not the only thing that's happened. Recently, as in the last week, 5 years on from there, I now have a debt that I have to pay from that business that I wasn't aware of. Because the thing is when I didn't trust my intuition, I inherited certain things. And so that gut instinct, that intuition that I went against 5 years later is now still here, coming back to teach me a lesson. And I'm so grateful for that lesson. And I'm in a position where that won't make me bankrupt and where I can fix that situation. But the thing is that the more I have spent the time, the energy, the lessons, having the coaches, having the people around me so that I can get myself to a point where my intuition is on point and I trust myself to back myself, I know that those mistakes, that's just a hangover from back then. And I know that I'm aware and I'm sure that there'll be times that it comes up again in different ways. But really, when you don't trust your intuition, and I wonder where this has happened for you either in your business, in your career, or in your personal life. Like another really big point or story is I didn't want to go to this party when I was younger. And I shouldn't have gone to the party. I'd lied to my mum about where we were going. And I was raped. Now, I'm not saying that because I went or what I was wearing, I got raped, and that's my fault. The world and the universe, things happen for us, in my opinion. But what I want to say to you is that your intuition, you are energetically picking up on something for a reason. And those might be or seem like two big dramatic things. But your intuition can be the difference between whether you have the car accident or not, whether you meet your husband or not. All of this, it all matters. And so you can be fearful of making decisions, but the one thing that is so important for me to get more people to is a point of being able to trust themselves and align themselves with that intuition. The impact of these decisions changed the trajectory of your life. They did mine. Though, with the work that I've done around the energetic side of things, the work that I now do with my clients, it is all-encompassing. It is not just a book that you can read. It is not just a lesson you can learn the hard way. You don't have to learn things the hard way. You don't. And the more that you align with that intuition, that intuitive feeling, that knowing, you have a knowing. It's just whether or not you're willing to speak it out loud. What I mean by that is if you're out with mates, somebody's drinking, and your intuition is telling you don't get in that car, how do you stop yourself from getting in that car? Do you become the person who's inconvenient, who's overprotective, who thinks too much? How many times has it happened for you where you have gone against your own intuition because you are scared about what other people think or what they will say, or that you've been wrong in the past once before? This matters. This is transformational. When you can get yourself in alignment, your nervous system, plus your communication, your ability to say what you want, to actually action that gut instinct, you are unstoppable when that happens. So I want to go into intuition a bit more. Intuition is the ability to understand or know something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning or to run it past somebody else. You may have heard of this. I've said about gut feeling earlier, gut instinct, but the inner sensing, you have this knowing, you don't know how, you don't know why you changed lanes at that time, but you just felt that you needed to, so you did, and you missed the wheel that came off the car in front of you. This is all inner sensing. This is all superpowers, and we all have the ability to do it as long as we are willing to do the work to get back and into that alignment. And so I've explained why it's important. Some of the science behind intuition is it's a complex cognitive process that involves various brain mechanisms. So just give me your attention for a little bit here. I'm going to get a bit sciencey with you, and you can shut it off if you feel like it, but it's going to be worth it. And when I say hippocampus, I don't mean a hippo that went to a university campus. I'm talking about the brain. All right. Hey, stop for a second. I know you're in the middle of building your life. If you want help with that, I can help you. Whether you join our architect program where it's working with me one-on-one, or our build group container, which absolutely has incredible value and will help you design and build that life faster. You can also join us to understand and design your energetic blueprint before there's a 1-day, 2-day event. You can join us there too. There is multiple different ways you can work with us at different investment points. We would love to have you there to help you get, design, and build the life that you want faster. You can see the links below. Feel free to reach out in any DM, in any social media platform. I would love to hear from you. Now, get back to building that life. A brief explanation of how intuition operates in the brain is it looks at pattern recognition and subconscious processing. And so in that pattern recognition, we have these neural networks. And the brain consists of vast networks of neurons that are adept at recognizing these patterns. So some of you may be very good at seeing how your neighbor always puts the bin out at this time, at the same time. And so all of a sudden then when the bin's not out, you have this intuitive knowing that, oh, something's happened, and so you go check on them and they've had a heart attack and you save their life. Like, this is what I'm talking about when it's recognizing patterns. Patterns are everywhere. Patterns are all around us. And so when you can recognize those patterns and you're in alignment, you start to see when something's being disrupted. And it's then when you can trust your intuition will tell you something. And so those networks, they can process and integrate vast amounts of sensory information and experiences so that you can get across and become familiar with those patterns quickly. And that's what I mean, and that's what Gerd's work goes into, is it's that speed. Because when you're in alignment and you can trust that intuition and it's on point most of the time, that is because your ability to see those patterns fast, that's what you need to tap into. That's what makes the decision-making so powerful. There's also the experience-based learning. So over time, your brain stores experiences and outcomes. So when something's new, like the bin's not out at the normal time that your elderly neighbour puts it out, you're faced with a new situation. The brain subconsciously compares it to those past experiences. Every Friday the bin is out, it's not out, so something must be wrong. Something's different. In that moment, you can identify the similarities and you can predict the possible outcomes. And it's with that and with your self-trust that you can recognize the difference and take or make a decision in that moment. And this is the role of the hippo that goes to campus. No, the hippocampus, I told you. It's a region in the brain associated with memory. Some of you may have just gone, my memory's pretty shit. Maybe you need to stop scrolling socials for a while. Different podcast. But the hippocampus, it plays a critical role in storing and retrieving patterns. That's what gets you the memory of that past experience. And it's what helps you make those rapid connections between what's in front of you, so the current stimuli, and that stored knowledge, so the external and the internal. And it's when they combine together, that's what intuition is. It's also the limbic system, and the limbic system it includes these structures like the amygdala and the hippocampus. It's all involved in the emotional processing of that memory. It helps in forming those gut feelings or those hunches that are part of intuitive thinking, right? So brain health is extremely important if you want your intuition to be on point, if you want to learn how to trust yourself again. The way things happen automatically, the responses that you have, they arise from the subconscious processing rather than the deliberate conscious thought. Because it's that conscious thought that is when you start to overanalyze. And if you remember at the start of the podcast, I was speaking about how people are like, I don't know what I want to eat. What are you getting? That is conscious thought. That is when you're starting to compare to others or outsource the decision making. That's what a lot of people do at the detriment for themselves. So that subconscious processing, this is what's really important for you to be able to get in touch with your intuition. It allows for that rapid decision making, especially in situations that require immediate action, which is why Gerd's work is so incredibly powerful when it comes to getting doctors, nurses, and decision makers to make immediate decisions, not just relying on anecdotal, like data, research, other people's opinions. They have to make a decision there and then. And that is why his research shows that the work he's doing with getting people in touch with their intuition again and the results that are happening are magnificent. And so the integration of this information. So you have all of these things happening, all the pattern recognition, the subconscious processing, and then you've got the prefrontal cortex, right? So this is, while intuition is often considered happening in the unconscious, as I've just given you the example of not outsourcing and not bringing it to have thought, it's a feeling more than it is a thought. The prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for your higher order thinking, it also plays a role in integrating that insight, that intuitive insight that you've had, with rational analysis. And this is where the super is put in superpower, because the integration of these two helps in refining your intuitive judgment. That's where self-trust comes in. The more you learn to do this, the more in touch you get in with your intuition, the more self-trust you have. The more you realize that you're phenomenally powerful and that the decisions you make impact everything. And so the brain can process multiple streams of information simultaneously, and that intuitive thinking often involves parallel processing where you are going through the feeling and the thought at the same time to get that fast, intuitive response. There are ways you can improve your intuitive ability. One of those is to discuss the importance of self-awareness. That's not for you. Becoming self-aware in recognizing your intuitive insights is super important. And one of the processes that I do, and this is extremely powerful. So if you're driving, don't do this because you may feel the tendency to close your eyes, but if not, come back to this at another time. But one of the things that I do with my clients when it comes to starting to awaken that intuitive process is bringing their attention, so breathing in through their nose and then out their mouth, and bringing their awareness to 3 things in their environment. So in through your nose, out your mouth, and just say out loud 3 things that are in your environment. Then what that is doing, it's bringing your awareness, it's taking you out of your head. And then I want you to breathe in again through your nose, and then, which is like blow out candles. Then you're going to take a breath in, and you're going to go down a slide out loud. So you're going to sigh. So the psychological sigh, you're going to go, ah, and you're going to ask a question. And on that sigh, your intuition will wake up. So whatever decision you give, however you answer that question is your intuition. What this is doing is it's a process that can really help you make sense of waking up your intuition and getting out of your head, which is where I mentioned before about people saying we overthink and we're in AD, we're thinking too much, we're overanalyzing. Breath, I love breath work. It gets you back in your body and it helps your nervous system stay regulated. So what we're doing here is we're bringing your awareness back into your body. We are quickly dumping CO2. We're taking a breath in, and that sigh out loud is literally vibrational. And then when you ask the question and you give whatever answer comes, you're like, fuck, how did I know that? Because you always knew. Your unconscious always knows. It's why I have a lot of clients who walk around with me in their head going, I don't know. And then Rebecca's, if you were to know, it's because you know, right? But this is the intuition. We want you to start to process and to make sense of that. In the show notes, there'll be a link to a quick video that we have going through this process. So it's pretty difficult for me to do this process on camera and talk at the same time. So that link is in the show notes if you want to know how to do that in more detail. Super, super powerful. And so 5 ways to make better decisions and applying that intuition in that decision making. Just gave you that, right? When you say, I don't know, ask yourself if you were to know and see what you say following that, as it usually shows you what you already knew all along in the subconscious. Seems really simple, and though it is true. The A4 process, the awareness, acknowledgement, acceptance, action. This process, we have a video on it previously as well. You can check in either in the videos or in the podcast section as well. But the A4 process is super, super powerful. It does have a lot more cognition or thought in it, but it can help you start to align your intuition with your actual judgment. So the A4 process, super powerful for that as well. Another tip is create a pros and cons list. So also be aware that it will be weighted differently. So just because you've got 5 things in your pros and 5 things in your cons doesn't mean that it means 5 and 5 equals neutral. Some of the things individually on your pros list might mean more than the things on your cons list. But what this does, and it's an old school strategy really, what it helps you do is to feel into your body when you read each of those items. And as you feel into your body, you'll start to awaken that intuition of what actually feels right, not what you think or looks right. And it's that feeling. What we're doing is we're starting to exercise ourselves to have the thought and the feeling together, which is what we've spoken into when it comes to how the brain works when it comes to intuition. Another one I love, flip a coin. Heads or tails. And when it lands, feel into your body as it's likely to give you the insight into how you actually feel about the decision. So if you're like, I'm going to buy this car, I don't know if I want to buy this car or this car. All right, well, flip a coin. And if you get heads, you're going to buy that car. If you get tails, you're going to buy that car. If when the coin lands, you are disappointed or you feel a certain way, there's your answer. I know, it seems so easy. Being human doesn't have to be difficult. Our brains sometimes make it harder than it needs to be. And the fifth tip that I have when it comes to your intuition and decision making is to set an intention to ask no one else, not your mum, not your dad. I am speaking to you values level 2 humans. Not your boss, not your best friend, not the friend down the road who you want their approval. No one else for their input. Set an intention for 1 week. You're going to make all of your decisions without the input of anyone else. How could you? I don't know. I do it every week to the point where I actually have to start involving more people in my decision making because you can go so far the other way. But for a week, ask nobody else for their opinion. Start small. What you're going to cook for dinner. What you're going to eat when you go out for food. Start to exercise the intuition you have inside you. You were born with this. Use the breath to process. Use the example I've given you of the 3 things. The 3 things, that process, super, super powerful, especially if there's a creative decision that you need to make that you feel like you're getting stuck on. Potent, the flipping the coin, if you're actually willing to face yourself, because it will give you really, really strong insight. And so if we make 35,000 decisions every single day, and we have up to 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, can you see how if you're not in alignment with your intuition, why you might be tired? And so where can you eliminate the amount of decisions you have to make? I gave you the example about how people do this with their wardrobe. Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg. Pretty sure Gary Vee now just wears like shirts and t-shirts too. Basically V-Friends, which if you haven't got one, they're totally, totally worth it. But I was an OG, so I get to say that. Where else can you make decisions? Food preparation. How much time are you wasting on what are you going to eat tonight? What are you going to get in the groceries? Meal prep and planning is a great way for you to eliminate decisions that you have to make every day. You can make it once for the week and then it's done. For myself, ADHD-ness of me, day 3 of meal prep, I'm like bored with the food. So I know that I have that self-awareness. So it's more about, but I can go to any restaurant. I'm happy. I can make a decision very, very quickly when it comes to food because I usually know what I feel like and what I don't feel like. So if you're not, start to practice there. That can save you time. That can save you energy. And that's the thing, right? Ultimately, all of this is energy, and how much are you wasting on making decisions? And how many decisions are you making that are keeping you out of alignment of who you want to be? And how big of the impact is going against your gut instinct, against your intuition? How much is it actually costing you? Because the example I gave you earlier, that has not only cost me the amount of energy and almost everything, it's cost me $28,500 5 years on when I thought everything was done and dusted. So it's not just about the money that going against your intuition is causing. It's also your health. It's also your relationships. It's also your self-worth, your self-love, your safety. Intuition was there for a reason. We were born with it for a reason. And so why do you choose to go against it? Because when you go against it, you're choosing others over yourself. Meditation and mindfulness is not just about sitting there and listening to nothingness. To nothingness. It can be boring. I love breath work. I now love meditation. But one of the key parts that I've learned over the years is that mindfulness is actually about getting back in touch with your intuition. Not many people speak about this. They speak about, reducing stress levels and using it as a tool to fix situations. But what if you use meditation and mindfulness not to fix something, but as a proactive tool to get quiet in that mind so that you can be in your body, so that you can actually get back in alignment with your intuition? And when you do that, you'll start to realize that you remember your dreams more often. And your dreams can actually help you make sense or see those insights that align with that gut instinct that you have. And so you can keep a dream journal next to your bed if you want to. Take notes about any recurring themes that you're having. But dreams can be super powerful insights into getting back in alignment with your intuition. And so let me know what questions you've got around intuition, or how you make decisions, or how to make better decisions, because I love to hear from you guys, and it helps me with future episodes and content that we create, because I'm here to serve. I want to make your life better. I want to help you create the life of your dreams, to design the ultimate life. That's my actual purpose. I do have a masterclass coming up, and in the show notes, you'll be able to see a link to that, Making Better Decisions. This masterclass, like the amount of work I do with one-on-one clients, that fundamentally when they learn how to make decisions because they understand themselves from a values levels perspective, from an energetic profiling perspective, everything starts to shift and they start to quantum jump timelines, because they're actually making decisions instead of all the time and energy that's been wasted in fearing or being scared of making decisions in alignment with that intuition. Remember, you were born with it. And so why aren't you listening to it? You get to choose to start to hear yourself. Let me know, what do you hear? When you get quiet, when you get in alignment, what is your intuition telling you? I would love to know. As always, thank you for being here. Have an incredible day, night, wherever you are. But that right next choice that you have to make, what's your intuition telling you? Thank you for joining me living life by 8. If this episode hit home, brought value to you in any way, I would love your support with a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe on your favorite platform too. And don't let your journey end here. Connect with me and my community at Rebecca Grugan on all social platforms. I look forward to going deeper with you on your journey.